Hello and welcome to the ministry of Morning Star Baptist Church. On behalf of our pastor, Bishop Dwayne C. Debnam, we are so glad to have you join us today. Morning Star is an experience committed to the mission of Jesus Christ, resulting in transformed lives, effective disciples, empowered communities, and authentic worship. We encourage you to not only receive from our ministry, but to also support our ministry. Your financial gifts allow us to meet the spiritual, physical, and emotional needs of God's people. Once again, thanks for watching and be blessed by our ministry.
set me free. Because he's God. And there's nobody like the one whom we serve, the one whom we glorify, the one who we lift up this morning. Look your neighbor and tell them there's nobody like God. My God. We come to magnify his holy name on this his day. This is the day the Lord has made. We shall rejoice and be glad in it. It's good to be in church today. Good to be in worship today. Good to have God's hand upon our lives. Acts chapter 9, beginning in verse number 1. Acts 9. To those who are depressed about the Ravens this morning, the Lord is good. He's still worthy of the praise. Tell your neighbor, it'll get better next year. They had a good ride. Acts 9, verse 1. Meanwhile, Saul was still breathing out murderous threats against the Lord's disciples. He went to the high priest and asked him for letters to the synagogues in Damascus, so that if he found any there belonging to Jesus, whether men or women, he might take them as prisoners to Jerusalem. As he neared Damascus on his journey, suddenly a light from heaven flashed around him. He fell to the ground and heard a voice say to him, "Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me?" "Who are you, Lord?" Saul asked. "I am Jesus, whom you are persecuting. Now get up and go into the city, and you will be told what you must do." Heads are bowed and eyes are closed. God, we thank you for showing us your strength, your power, your will for our lives. We honor you, God, today, that you never gave up on us. We strayed, we rebelled, we ran, but you never gave up on us. Thank you for still calling our name, even in the midst of our dysfunction. In the name of Jesus Christ, we pray, and together we all say, amen. Meanwhile, Saul was still breathing out murderous threats against the Lord's disciples. I want to talk this morning from this thought in this second Sunday of this new year, breaking an old rhythm. Tell your neighbor, I got to break an old rhythm. Bad habits are hard to break. Have I got a witness? Anybody here ever had a bad habit, a problem, a practice, a pattern that hurt you more than it helped you? And what's interesting, Irvin, is once you've done the same bad thing for a long time, it's sometimes hard to break it. If you don't believe me, ask anybody who's ever had a bad habit. It's not easy to stop doing what you've done for a long time. When you have been the same way, it's hard not to be that way anymore. When you have lived the same way, acted the same way, talked the same way, it's not always easy to do you a new way. When your habits have been the same, your behavior has been the same, and your attitude has been the same, it's sometimes hard to teach an old dog new tricks, even if that old dog is you. Bottom line, when your rhythm has been the same for years, it's hard to break an old rhythm. If you know him right, touch your neighbor and say, he's right. And what I've discovered, seen, experienced, and witnessed is that it may not be easy to break an old rhythm, but it is possible. It's possible to break an old habit. It's possible to break an old pattern. It's possible to break an old rhythm. And we see this lived out in the life of a brother by the name of Saul. Saul, y'all, for years has had the habit of hurting people. For years, Saul has had the habit of being destructive, impulsive, and thoughtless. Saul's history tells us that he has been murdering, threatening, and destroying the lives of people who didn't agree with him. It has been his rhythm to disrupt the work of Jesus. It has been Saul's rhythm, believe it or not, to hurt people, to wound people, even to kill people. And it may not have been the right rhythm, but guess what? It was Saul's rhythm. Say neighbor, it was Saul's rhythm. Everybody has some rhythm. Everybody has some way of doing them, some way of living their life. It may not be a rhythm that keeps you in rhythm with God, but everybody has a rhythm. Saul had a rhythm. He was in rhythm with his own thoughts. He was in rhythm with his own ideas. Saul was in rhythm, watch this y'all, with the devil. And what's interesting is that Saul thought at one time he was in rhythm with God, when in reality he was in rhythm with the devil. Have you ever thought that you were doing the right thing only to discover that you were doing the wrong thing? Saul was hurting people, but he thought he was in rhythm with God. Saul was destroying lives, but he thought he was in rhythm with God. Saul was drunk on power, but he thought he was in rhythm with God. And there are persons, Morning Star, under the sound of my voice, who can boldly testify that there was a season in your life when your rhythm with the devil, you made you think, watch this, you were in rhythm with God. There was a time when your rhythm was destroying your life, but it was your rhythm. There was a time when your rhythm was breaking your family, but it was your rhythm. There was a time when your rhythm was messing up your career, but it was your rhythm. And even now, there are persons hearing this word whose rhythm is causing you to make some bad choices. Your rhythm is causing you to do some wrong things. Your rhythm has you fighting against the will of God. Your rhythm has you hurting the health of your family. Your rhythm has you wounding your potential. Your rhythm has you messing up your life. And I want to suggest that the time has come to break an old rhythm. Help me preach. High five your neighbor. Say, it's time to break an old rhythm. My question is, how long will you do what is no good for you? How long will you hang out with folk who ain't no good for you? How long will you do what is hurting you? And for years, Saul had been in rhythm with his own thoughts, his own ideas, his own distortion of the truth, his own fake interpretation of reality, his own bogus variation of truth, his own counterfeit twisting of the facts. He almost could have been the Donald Trump of the 21st century. Saul was in rhythm with the devil. But there came a day, and there will come a day when God will either knock you into a new reality or life will use that rhythm against you. Have I got a witness? God will, when he has to, use your rhythm against you to force you to break a rhythm. Oh God, yes he will. God and life will use some rhythms against you. Life has used the rhythm of poor discipline against us. Poor discipline has led to poor choices, which have led to unhealthy relationships. Life has used the rhythm of a bad diet against us. Overeating has led to being overweight, which has led to illnesses that are breaking you. Life has used the rhythm of overspending against you. Overspending has led to too much debt, which has led to bad credit, which has led to not being able to do what you really need to do. God and your life will break you of some old rhythms. And there are some persons in the house this morning who can testify that there have been times when you didn't willingly break a rhythm, but God facilitated breaking it for us when we wouldn't break it on our own. I need somebody to help me preach. Can I build my case? It was God who broke your rhythm of saying the wrong thing out of your mouth. It was God who broke your rhythm of smoking weed just to socialize with some weed smokers. It was God who broke your rhythm of lying just to feel good about yourself. It was God who broke your rhythm of cheating, trying to get a hit. God will break you of some old rhythms. And here's Saul, the self-proclaimed procedure of spiritual liberation, on his way to wound believers, only to be knocked down by God and wounded himself. Isn't that funny? God wounds him as he's on his way to wound believers. Touch not my anointed. Do my servants no harm. The Bible shares with us that Saul is on his way to break the rhythm of some Christians. God intervenes, God interrupts his flow and shines a light in his face that causes Saul, Gloria, to fall, bump his head, and lose his sight. God shines a light in his face and everything changes. God makes him a witness, makes him a model for those who are going in the wrong direction. God shines a light in his face and Saul tumbles to the ground and his life is changed. Let me offer that every now and then God will put the light on you. But it won't be for the reason that you want it on you. God will put the light on you, not to tell you how cute you are, not to tell you how smart you are, not to tell you how special you are, not to tell you how talented you are, but to change you. God won't put the light on you so people can see how great you are, but sometimes God will put the light on you to show you how broken you are. God will put the light on you to stop you, because if you keep going the way that you're going, you won't only destroy you, but you'll destroy those around you. Anybody here need to thank God that he stopped you? Sometimes God breaks you because he's got to stop you. He's got to stop you before you go too far. He's got to stop you before you go down that dead-end street. He's got to stop you before you hang out and marry the wrong person. He's got to stop you before you do what you can't recover from. He's got to stop you before you push the wrong button at the wrong time. He's got to stop you before you build a relationship with the wrong crew. And they are those in the house right now who are only here because God stopped you just in the nick of time. He stopped you when you were about to go where you would not come back from. He stopped you when you were about to hurt the wrong person. He stopped you when you were about to say the wrong thing. Rewind that thing. He stopped you when you were about to say the wrong thing. He stopped you when you were about to say yes to the wrong person. He stopped you when you were about to go to the wrong place. God forced an old rhythm to be broken in your life. You're still alive. You're still able to function because God watches broken old rhythm. And I pause right there. I feel the breakthrough right there. If I'm on your street, say, neighbor, I'm thanking God in the midst of this sermon that he stopped me at the right time. Who am I talking? No. Can I find somebody who can thank God that he stopped you from marrying the wrong person, from hanging out with the wrong person, from saying yes to the wrong job, for going to the wrong place at the wrong time? Say, neighbor, I'm thanking, say I'm taking a 10-second praise because he stopped me. No. Well, okay, you got 9 more seconds to thank God for. No. I need some folk who know you were headed in the wrong direction and God stopped you. You're still here because God broke you at the right time. My question is, how do you keep a habit from breaking you? How do you keep a habit from destroying your life, your family, your friends, your job, your career, your business? First lesson we learn as we observe the remaking of Saul is that Saul gave into what he had been fighting against. I'm coming after you. Sometimes your problem is you won't give in. Let me stay right there. Sometimes your problem is you think you know everything. Anybody know some know-it-all people? Holler at your neighbor, say, I ain't talking about you, but I know somebody. Saul gave in to what he could no longer deny. He gave in to the power of God. And there will come a moment when God will let you know that he's stronger than you. You can keep fighting God if you want to, but God will grow tired of your rebellion and break you. Let me push, because there's some persons in the house right now who can testify that there came a point when you could no longer fight against God. You kept on fighting. You were determined to live your way, but God pushed back. And let me suggest, you don't want to get God to the point where he starts pushing back. You don't want to get God to the point where he has to break your will. God broke Saul. But Saul got wise real quick. Can I stay there? Wise folk get, watch this, smart quick when God breaks you. Do I have to holler? Say neighbor, I may not be as smart as you, but I wised up when God knocked me down and proved to me he knew more than I knew. Understand. Saul realized that if God was this persistent, and if God was this strong, and if God was this powerful, it made no sense to keep fighting against a God with this much power. It made no sense to keep fighting against a God who was sovereign. It made no sense to keep fighting a God who will not back down. It makes no sense to keep fighting against a God who is exceedingly stronger than you can imagine. And there are those in the house right now who need to take heed to the message that God is sending you. It is not the devil who took that job from you. It was God. It is not the devil who broke that relationship up. It was God. It was not the devil who gave you, who's trying to steal your peace. It's God. It's not the devil who has the door locked. It's God. It's not the devil who has been keeping you up late at night, but it's the God of redemption who has humbled you because he's breaking an old rhythm. He's been trying to change you without hurting you. He's been trying to change you without wounding you. But there comes a point when God will knock you down to get your attention. Notice that Saul, when knocked down, responds with the question, who are you, Lord? He does not say, who are you, friend? He does not say, who are you, devil? But he says, who are you, Lord? Which suggests to me that he knew that he was up against somebody who had power and authority. He knew that he was up against somebody who was stronger than he was. And there comes a moment when you've got to recognize, respect, and respond to the power of God. There comes a moment when you've got to stop fighting the will of God. There comes a moment when you should grow tired of God and life knocking you down and submit to God, proving that he is sovereign and there is none like him. I need some folk in here who can testify. You know God is sovereign. You know God is stronger than you. Let me suggest that when you stop fighting God, that's when you really discover that he is Lord and there is no power like the power of God who can break you but then build you back up. There's no power like the God who can wound you but then make you better. There's no power like the God who can humble you but then raise you up stronger than before. Look at Saul. God humbled him but then raised him back up. And quite frankly, look at you. God broke you of the habit of rebellion, but then raised you back up. God broke you of some bad ways only to prove to you that he had a better plan than you had. And the best news is you're stronger now. The best news is you're wiser now. The best news is you're better now. Can I find somebody who can thank God? I'm better now than I was before, because God knocked me down. Can we take about 10 seconds for a praise break and thank God? I know this sounds strange, for knocking you down at the right time. We're the folk who don't care who knows. Say neighbor, God knocked me down. Say say he slapped me around, but then he cleaned me up, picked me back up, redeemed me, and told me, for I know the plans that I have for you, plans to prosper you, plans to give you hope and a future. He had to give in to what he had been fighting against. But we also learn that as God insists on remaking, so I wrestled with this lady, see, why is God spending time remaking somebody who don't want to do right? Okay, maybe that's your question, because you're trying to figure out why God keeps on giving you his time and attention when you keep on messing up You keep on falling short. You keep on, okay, who am I talking to? Let me find some real folk. I don't just preach to folk who ain't never messed up. I want to preach to folk who messed up yesterday, and God still woke you up this morning, started you on your way, gave you peace of mind, and say, neighbor, he talking to me. Why does God insist on remaking Saul? Here's why. Because Saul acknowledged his limitations. There comes a moment when the natural you has to recognize that you are only human. Okay, I know you deep, you sanctified, you speak in tongues every other sentence, but you're still only human. When Saul gets knocked down, it dawned on him that there's somebody stronger than him. He gets knocked down, and it dawns on him that he is not the strongest lion in the jungle. He gets knocked down after knocking so many others down, and it clicks. It dawns on him that he is not the greatest of them all. Saul was forced by God to acknowledge his limitations. He had to acknowledge that he was not sovereign. He had to acknowledge that he didn't know everything. He had to acknowledge that he wasn't the wisest man on the mountain. He had to acknowledge that he had some limitations. He did not know everything. He did not have all the answers. He did not have all the power. But there will come a day, my friends, with God and or life will let you know that you have limitations, and it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing when you discover that God is stronger than you. It's not a bad thing when you discover that you are not sovereign, but God is. It's not a bad thing when you discover that you didn't wake yourself up this morning, but God did. It's not a bad thing that you didn't keep yourself in your right mind, but God did. As a matter of fact, it just might be the best day of your life. It just might be the moment that changes your life for the better. It just might be the moment that allows your life to turn the corner. And like Saul, you start to see Jesus for who he is. When you discover that you have limitations and that Jesus can do anything, it will be the day that takes your life from the shores of failure to the bridge of redemption. Can I find somebody who can thank God that you finally understood you had limitations? It changed your, high five three folks and say, it changed my life. When you discover that you have limitations, it will take your life from the valley of miscarriage to the arms of redemption. And here's the real reason today is it's not only that you discover that you have limitations, but most importantly, you discover that in God there is no failure. You discover that in God there's the power to break rhythms that are destroying you. I'm glad, can I testify that God broke some of my bad habits? No. Let me find some folk. Anybody here glad that God broke? No. I need some folk who ain't super saints this morning, who can thank God he broke some of your bad habits. In God, there's the power to break rhythms that are draining the life out of you. You discovered that not only did you have limitations, but you discovered that in God all things are possible. You discovered that God can do anything. You discovered that God can take a person who was headed to hell and turn their life around. You discovered that God can take that person who through life has made mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake and still find the good of them. You discover that God can take that person who nobody thought any good could come from and pour out the best in them. You discover that God can take that person who had no desire to change and not only change them, but use them to tear Satan's kingdom down. And I know I'm right, because your name might not be Saul, but you are the one that shouldn't even be here. But God turned your life around. You are the one that nobody thought could change, but God turns your life around. You are the one who messed up time after time, and God still found a way to use you. You are the one that everybody in the family gave up on, but God still had faith in you. You are the one that had no desire to change, but God still gave you another chance. Can I find somebody who can boldly testify that you are the one that nobody thought any good could come from? You are the one who messed up time after time. You are the one who kept falling short. You are the one who's still falling short. But early this morning, he called your name. He woke you up and said, I've got a plan. Oh, I feel like preaching now. Let me help you. Say, neighbor, I'm the one Say, I'm the one who's not supposed to be here. I'm the one who's not supposed to be in their right mind. Smoke too much crack, smoke too much weed, drank too much liquor, ran the streets too many times, but God still somehow woke. Can I find some? Let me find some. Okay, let me find some ex crack smokers, some ex weed smokers, some ex midnight ramblers, some. Okay, okay, I ain't talking to y'all sanctified folk. I'm talking to some folk over here who can testify. I should not be in my right mind, but by the grace of God, I'm still standing. See, just because you don't smoke weed now, don't act like you ain't never did it before. And but by the grace of God, you ain't smoke a bad batch. But by the grace of God, your stuff wasn't laced with something that took you out of your mind, but don't be acting like you ain't never gone down the wrong street. But by the grace of God, but if folk only knew the gutters God lifted you out of, let me get out of here. He had to acknowledge his limitations. But we learned in this final move, he was able to break an old rhythm because here's why. Jesus revealed himself. I'm about to run by myself. See, you don't understand. When Jesus reveals himself, Saul is on his way to hurt folk. He didn't reveal himself to a perfect Saul who would be Paul. He reveals himself to a dysfunctional Saul who had no plan of changing. You ever had no plan of changing? But God said, I'm not going to let you keep going down that same street no more. If I got to knock you down, I'll knock you. Preach that them. Saul said, who are you, Lord? And the voice said, I am Jesus, whom you are persecuting. I am Jesus whom you've been fighting against. I am Jesus whom you've been hostile toward. I am Jesus, the one you don't want to submit to. I am Jesus, the one who you've been persecuted. Jesus revealed himself to Saul, and when Jesus reveals himself, it's a game changer. High five your neighbor. I'm about to run now, musicians. Say, neighbor, it's a game changer. Yes, it is. And what's powerful is that once Jesus identified himself, once Jesus got Saul's attention, Saul couldn't fight no more. Holler at your neighbor, say, neighbor, I couldn't fight no more. I couldn't fight no more. Once God showed his power in word and deed, Saul couldn't run no more. And I've got some good news. Jesus is revealing himself. Holler at yourself, say, self, Jesus is revealing himself. That's why I'm still standing. He's telling you who he is. He's telling you that he's sovereign. He's showing you who he is. He's proven he's got all power. And Saul found out that Jesus is Lord. He found out that Jesus is life changer. Saul found out that Jesus is deliverer and healer. But the good news is he's still revealing himself. Go and high five yourself and say, self, I thank God that he's revealing himself. He's showing me who he is. He's showing me he can save me. He's showing me he can set the captives free. He's showing me he's a redeemer. He's showing me he can turn my life around. He's showing me he can heal bodies. He's showing showing me he can fix the broken places of my broken life. He's turning things around. As a matter of fact, there's somebody in the house who's finding out who Jesus is. You're finding out that he's a way maker. Let me find those 25 folk who found out this week he's a way maker. He kept the lights on. He's a way maker. Let me find those folk who found out that he's a deliverer. The doctor had to change his report because God is a deliverer and he's a healer. You're finding out that he's the anchor in your life. You're finding out that God is a fixer. Let me find those 35 folk who can thank God he's a fixer. If I'm on your street, high five your cute neighbor and just say, neighbor, he's a fixer. He fixed my life. I didn't need Oprah or Phil to fix my life because God fixed my life. Let me find those folk who are praising God because he fixed your life. If I'm on your street, grab yourself and say, self, he fixed your life. You're finding out that God's a fixer. You're finding out that he's almighty. You're finding out he's a friend who sticks closer than a brother. You're finding out he's the strength of your life. He's your light and your salvation. He's your refuge and your strength. He's your joy. He's the one who keeps calling your name. I got my hook. I'm closing right there. He's the one who keeps calling your name. Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, I'm dysfunctional. I'm filled with flaws. I got a whole bunch of faults, but he keeps calling my name. Who am I talking to? Let me find some fault-filled saints in the house, but he keeps calling your name. Say, neighbor, I got fault after fault. I failed once, I failed twice, I failed about 20 times, but he kept calling my name. Is there anybody here who can thank God that he's calling your name despite your flaws? He's calling your name despite your past. He's calling your name despite your mistakes. You messed up, but he still calls your name. You've done some wrong, but he's calling your name. You're flawed, but he's calling your name. You're broken, but he's calling your name. Rewind. You're broken. Where's some broken folk? I need some broken folk who can thank God that he's still calling your name. Find you a shouting partner and say, neighbor, I'm broken. I was sinking deep in sin, far from the peaceful shore, very deeply stained with sin. I was sinking to rise no more. But the master of the sea, he heard my despairing cry, and from the waters he lifted me. Now safe am I. He's calling your name into his arm. Anybody here hear God calling your name? Anybody here can hear God calling your name? If I'm talking to you, say, neighbor, he's calling my name. He's calling the name of the broken. He's calling the name of the hurting. He's calling the name of the flawed. He's calling the name of the foolish. He's calling the name of the sin. Anybody here can thank God he's calling your name? I need some folk can help me close this sermon. You got to raise your voice. You got to wave your hand because he's calling your name. Say, neighbor, he called my name. I was messed up. I was broken real bad. I was smoking weed. I was drinking liquor. I was running the street. I was messing around. I was doing the wrong thing, but he called my name. Who am I talking to? Grab your neighbor and say, neighbor, he called my name. Find 3 folk who will shout for you, who will shout with you. He's calling my name. He's calling my name. He's calling my name. He's calling my name. Here's the good news. He revealed himself. He showed me who he is. He showed me I can do better. He showed me that he loves me. He showed me that he cares. He's calling. Let me stop, y'all. See, there's some folk in here. There's some folk in here. It blows your mind that you're still in your right mind. Who am I talking to? Testify. Say, neighbor, if you only knew some of the stuff I used to do. But the Lord still had a plan to prosper my life and to give me a great future. I don't know why he loves me. I don't know why he cares. I don't know why he sacrificed his life for me. Oh, but I'm so glad that he did. Can I find some folk who are so glad that he did? Let me help you. I'm stopping. Let me help you. God will reveal himself even to those who have messed up, because he knows you can do better than what you've been doing. Can I help you get you to testify to your neighbor? Say, neighbor, you can do better than what you've been doing. Say, God knows all about your stuff.
We pray you've been blessed by the word of God. On behalf of our pastor, Bishop Dwayne C. Debnam, we thank you for watching. Morning Star is an experience committed to the mission of Jesus Christ. We're located in Woodlawn. You can find out more about our ministry on our website at www.msbcministries.org. You can also call us at 410-747-3417. We encourage you to not only receive from our ministry, but to support our ministry. Your financial gifts allow us to meet the practical needs of God's people. Giving is easy. Go to our website, once again, at www.msbcministries.org. You can use our in-fellowship system, Cash App, Givelify, Text to Give. There are a number of ways to conveniently support our ministry financially. Thank you in advance for watching. Thank you in advance for supporting. Be blessed.